welcome to the 2018 LMP3 Cup Championship. We're at Donington Park in Leicestershire for rounds 1 and 2 of the season. We're going to dive straight in and go on board with Dominic Paul.
Hello, I'm Dominic Paul. I'm driving the LMP3 Cup. I'm going to talk you through a lap of Donington Park today. So here we come, first corner, come up to Redgate. It's a very fast approach in the LMP3 Cup car. It's a very late brake. You want to brake after the pit lane entry, down into third gear, bring it in, apex here, hard on the power, let it run right out onto the curbs. And you're getting in the line right into Craner Curve. So in an LMP3 car, it's flat through here. It's fifth gear, it's very fast, it focuses the mind. Come into the old hairpin, stuck to the left, brake late, apex, take a lot of that green curve, right out to the exit curb there. Then running through on the run up to McLean's, carrying a lot of speed here, have to use every single millimetre of the track, late brake, really concentrated, turning in, already on the power, up here, let the car run right round to the edge of the circuit there, come in the coppice, critical corner, late braking, just get some of that curb, and then let the car rail round the outside, hard on the power here, coming up on the exit curb, carrying all the speed now for this straight, so your exit of coppice is critical to get the speed down into this straight. Very late brake for the chicane now, down into third gear, turning in and hard on the power here, let it run out to the exit, coming over the start-finish straight, and that's third on the grid. Thank you very much.
It's great to get the driver's view on an onboard lap. Now let's take a look at the grid for race 1. The opening pole position of the 2018 season goes to Colin Noble and Tony Wells, but just half a second covered the top 5 cars. Bradley Smith and Duncan Williams have the Norma M30 in second, just 4/100ths of a second ahead of Jack Butel and Dominic Paul. Johnny Hollings and Andrew Bentley are 4th, less than 1/10 of a second ahead of debutant Christian Olsen. Jason Rishover and Jamie Spence are 6th, and Matt Bell is 7th in the Ligier JS-P4. Now let's hear from our pole sitter.
Went.
Yeah, it was good. Just got out and the setup in the car was pretty good. So yeah, got a few quick laps in early on, and just built on it throughout the session. And got a load of clear laps. So it wasn't too bad.
How are conditions out there? Because it's getting warmer by the minute, isn't it?
Yeah, track conditions are good. They've relayed bits of the surface as well, so it's quite high levels of grip. So yeah, fairly happy with qualifying.
You started this weekend last year with a double victory. I'm guessing that's the objective for this year as well.
Yeah, it's the objective every weekend to try and get a double victory. So yeah, we'll be pushing for it.
But new teammate with Tony, so slightly different dynamic. But feeling confident for the race? Yeah,
I shared with him in the Le Mans Cup last year in Europe, so we've shared with each other before. So it's not, although it's new in this championship, we've been with each other before in Michelin. So yeah, it's going well.
Christian Olsen upsets the odds with an outstanding debut victory in LMP3 Cup Championship. He combined quick driving on track with his shorter pit stop to emerge in the lead and take the win. Last year's champion, Colin Noble, teaming up with Tony Wells, finishes second, with Bonamy Grimes and Johnny Molam securing the final spot on the podium despite heavy pressure from Jamie Spence in the final stages of the race. Spence brings home fourth place for himself and Jason Rishover after hunting down Grimes, with Bradley Smith and Duncan Williams finishing fifth on their and the Norma M30's debut in the LMP3 Cup. Jack Butel and Dominic Paul finished 7th and Matt Bell 8th, and heading up the PT4 category in the racing debut for the Ligier JS4.
Yeah, well, it was a bit of a lonely race, to be honest. The weather conditions at the start were less than ideal. I just wanted a nice, smooth race, but then it had that sort of spitting rain to begin with. So we elected to go wet to stay on the safe side, and as soon as I got out there, I realised it was definitely slicks. So just sort of slid around for the first half of the race, pitted as soon as the pit window opened, put some slicks on, and then car felt great after that. It was good for it to complete its first race. I think it was 54 laps we managed to complete there, and it felt absolutely spot on. It was really nice to drive.
This is the first race in the UK for this car, so it's all useful development mileage, I guess.
Yeah, pretty much. So, you know, I'm just driving it as hard as I can, as close to the limit as I can, and giving feedback on the changes that we've been making throughout the day. And I think that we're doing a few more tomorrow to just do a little bit more, you know, compile a bit more knowledge about it, and also from myself as a driver, if I end up driving them again in the future, which would be nice, have a little bit of knowledge about it. So, yeah, just continue the development process and get some more miles under its belt tomorrow as well.
Obviously, we had the tricky conditions in the beginning. I was a little bit unsure, but starting from the back, I was actually able to gauge exactly how much to put into the car from the others in front of me. The front runners didn't have that luxury. So, I mean, the car setup was phenomenal. I could really just pull it through. And then, really, I mean, even with the pit stops, no issue there. I went back out, and I was really just still stuck in the rhythm. It felt like I really just had to execute lap after lap. There wasn't really, I didn't have any moments. There were no real mistakes there. Honestly, it felt amazing, and it's my second ever LMP3 race. So the first one being in Le Castellet. That didn't really go as well as we'd wanted with pit stops and with setup and with engine issues and so on. So that was last week. Coming here to Donington Park feels amazing.
It's a good start. It was a bit tricky at the start, and then we're just hanging on at the end. We didn't have a very good pit stop, so made it a bit hard for ourselves, but Tony did a good job in the second one and brought it home second.
Yeah, well, I mean, we made the call to go on slicks, which is obviously the right call, and so Cole gave us a big lead, but we did have a problem with the belts and stuff for the pit stop, so I lost about 15 seconds, I think, in the stop. So it was a bit closer with everybody else than I was hoping for, and I was a bit, wasn't quite comfy in the car, let's say. So, but anyway, I managed to generate enough of a lap time to stay in second, but Christian was long gone, so.
I guess if you are going to beat by someone, your teammate's probably the best person, isn't it?
Oh yeah, it's a Nielsen 1, 2, 3, isn't it? So happy days. I think the best thing was Bon Grimes. I mean, for him to hold off Jamie Spence like that was amazing.
And it was a little bit greasy. I'd worked out on the warm-up laps where I had grip and where I didn't. So I got a good run, went round the outside of a couple of people on the brakes into Redgate, went round the outside of somebody at Redgate, went round the outside of Charlie Hollings, our friend at the Craners, which he didn't like much. Then ran really wide at McLean's, and Charlie got a run at me, so I had to pinch him a bit. I probably need to apologise for that, because I didn't want him in front of me. Then took second place, and I just got my head down. And then I was catching Colin at one point when it was greasy, and then made a bit of an error, and then when it started drying out, I wasn't pushing as hard as I needed to. In retrospect, I probably gave away 3 or 4 seconds in the middle of that stint, which would have helped Bon out. But the real hero of it, without a doubt, is to keep Jamie Spence behind you. I mean, I know Jamie, he's a good friend of mine, fantastic driver, but also I knew when he got close he'd just send it, because that's, you know, like Daniel Ricciardo says, just lick the stamp and send it. That is Jamie Spence all over. I love him for it, but I just never in a million years thought Bon would be able to keep him behind for that long, and Bon just absolutely beautiful. Fastest lap on his fastest lap of the race on the last lap.
It's great fun as well. I mean, to get into the car where I was fantastic. So great credit to Johnny and the team for getting the car fixed, and that we could race for that second part of the race. So it was absolutely superb. But you know, I knew we were running out of sync. So we had Johnny being the pro was in first, and I knew I'd have some pros breathing down my neck. And I was told over the radio what I had to do, 4s and 5s, and I've only done a 4 once, so it was pressure on. So I was maximising every single lap, trying to get it faster and faster and faster. And then I could see him coming up behind me, and I thought, well, I'll do my best to defend. And into Redgate, into turn 1, I pinched him slightly so that he was offline, and he just went in too deep, and it gave me a bit more breathing space. And I thought I might be able to just keep him. I've done it now. And then it came out of the radio. He's still on track. You've still got to keep it in the 4s and 5s. So I was flat out again. And he caught me up on that last lap and into the chicane. It was very, very tight, but I just defended, held the line as much as I could. He had to go around the outside, and he couldn't quite slow down, so he went across the gravel. I managed to kind of hit a few bumps, but keep it on track, and it was a great finish.
It's been an exciting start to the LMP3 Cup Championship at Donington Park. Join us after the break for more action. Welcome back to the LMP3 Cup. New for the 2018 season is the PT4 class, and Donington Park saw the world racing debut of the new Ligier JSP4. We caught up with Ligier UK boss Richard Dean to tell us about the car.
It's based on the P3 chassis, so full carbon car, full carbon tub, carbon crash box, shares an awful lot of parts with massively successful. The original concept was a track day car, the ultimate track day car, but people that have been inquiring about it want to race it. So it's sort of aimed at that market, just the national series. And this is the first car. It's brand new, chassis number 1 behind me here, and world debut. We're trying to make it as simple as possible to run, so you don't need an army of mechanics and a team of NASA scientists or whatever. So it's a stock engine, Ford 3.7 engine, and like I say, the chassis and all the running gear, all the suspension, all the uprights, bearings, everything are based from a proven model with the LMP3 car. So real simple engine, absolutely bulletproof, effectively straight out of a Ford road car. I think that particular engine, the 3.7 Ford, is in an SUV out in America. It's one of their relatively new generation of engines that's probably good for 300,000 miles in a road car, and it's running around in a car that's probably a third of the weight of its original intention in a road car. The measure was always going to be from LMP3 to LMP2, that sort of gap. They were going to try and create a gap so it is a natural stepping stone, not too big a gulf, but not too close that you confuse the two. And round here, Donington Park, which is just over 2 miles long, I think, we're about 4.5 seconds. So a nice progression. It's something that if a gentleman driver or a guy who's first year in experience in race cars starts in P4, it's not too big a jump to make the next step in P3, and then you're only one step away from Le Mans in LMP2.
Bradley Smith and Duncan Williams secure their first pole position in the Norma M30, 0.8 of a second ahead of Jason Rishover and Jamie Spence. Charlie Hollings and Andrew Bentley qualify third, with Christian Olsen in fourth and Jack Butel and Dominic Paul in fifth, all covered by 0.1 of a second. Race 1 podium finishers, Colin Noble and Tony Wells, are 6th, ahead of fellow podium finishers Bonamy Grimes and Johnny Molan. 8th place goes to Matt Bell in the Ligier JSP4.
Yeah, I mean, today's really tricky with a big crosswind going across the whole circuit, so it made for a really difficult qualifying session. Managed to find a nice clear bit of circuit and, just poke some laps in. I mean, the car's in really good shape. We're really good on the longer runs and with the heavier fuel. The car gives you great confidence, especially in some of the high-speed corners, So, hopefully we can make the most of what we have and have a good result. Yeah, so we'll have Duncan out first and then I'll jump in after and, try and bring it home.
Bradley Smith and Duncan Williams take their first LMP3 Cup Championship victory and the first for the new Norma M30, ahead of Colin Noble and Tony Wells in a good recovery drive from 6th on the grid. Charlie Hollings and Andrew Bentley were running a strong second for much of the race, but pressure from Colin Noble finally paid off with a late race pass, the United Autosports pair coming home third. Jason Rishover and Jamie Spence were 4th, Dominic Paul and Jack Butel 5th, and Bonamy Grimes and Johnny Molam 6th. Matt Bell finishes 7th in a strong debut weekend for the Ligier JSP4, and Christian Olsen 8th after his race 1 success after going off the track early in the race.
No, it was obviously good to continue to put miles on the car today, and we were playing around with a few more things under the bonnet and continuing to make steps forward with it, I think. So no, another great day for the LMP3 cars, the Prototype Cup, and yeah, all good day at Donington, really.
And a productive weekend for you guys and the car development.
Yeah, very much so. As I said, put more kilometres on the car, and it was just getting better and better. We were starting to improve our knowledge throughout the weekend, and just continuing to find out what if there are any weaknesses. And this weekend hasn't thrown any up, which is good. So no, seems to all be going in the right direction.
Yeah, I mean, Duncan put a fantastic stint in to begin with, and even with a little bit of extra rotation, we managed to keep it up the front end of the field, and I just tried to sort of move forward as much as I could throughout the race, and huge thank to MechTech and Norma have put together a fantastic car for us.
Duncan, tell us how your race went.
Yeah, I was told before I sat in the Norma it was a bit of a diva. And it's not an easy car to drive quickly, and I think it showed in my driving, a couple of mistakes, but it's because on the limit it's a difficult car, whereas with Bradley's talent he can take that diva and push it right to the limit and get the most out of it, and it reflects in the times that he puts in.
But happy with the result?
Over the moon. over the moon.
Johnny Molan leads, Duncan Williams in second place under pressure from Andrew Bentley. Jinx one way, Jinx the other. He's sitting there right behind the wheel tracks off the Norman.
Yeah, happy with that. We struggled a little bit pace over the weekend, so to come away with 2 podiums was a good start to championship, and we can work on it from here for the next round.
Tony, you started, I believe, didn't you?
Yeah, so as Colin said, we haven't been quite on it this weekend. I missed Thursday's practice, and we were always sort of playing catch up from then. But the car was better than it had been, much better than qualifying this morning. So yeah, I mean, all I did was basically just keep my head down and run a lap time, and people kept throwing it off in front of me, and I kept going up a place, and so we weren't that far away from the lead when I swapped, and Colin got us the podium.
Yeah, I was starting, and yeah, got a reasonable start and got a little bit blocked. Johnny jumped into the lead somehow, not too sure how, but he came from quite a long way back, and I was held up behind the Norma to start off with, but just so difficult to get by around here. Pressured him into a mistake, and then it was a case of chasing Johnny down. Again, it was going to be difficult to pass, very experienced, very good driver, so I knew who probably was my best bet was to pressure him again into a mistake, which happened. And then once I was in the lead, head down, crack on, try and build as big a gap as we could, because we know there was a real mix of drivers in the second half of the race, so it was just a case of giving Charlie as big a cushion as I possibly could.
Charlie, pick up the story.
Yeah, we knew Bradley Smith would be fast coming through, because that car, they've been a quick package all weekend, so we kind of were waiting for him for the attack, but had a little bit of damage just on the rear of the car, and I just seemed to be struggling more and more through the race. But yeah, then just went into defensive mode with Colin Noble. So yeah, I was just trying to stop the car, and good exits, and keep him behind. But yeah, eventually he got through, so third. So yeah, good day, and good nice start to the year.
Well, Colin Noble and Tony Wells lead the championship by just a single point from Bradley Smith and Duncan Williams, with Christian Olsen there in third place. It's all close for fourth. Jamie Spence, Jason Rishover, Bonamy Grimes and Johnny Molan, Charlie Hollings and Andrew Bentley just separated by a single point. Jack Butel and Dominic Paul are seventh, and Matt Bell, despite 2 wins, was not eligible for points in the P4 class. That brings us to a close of the action for Donington Park this weekend. Next up for the LMP3 Cup Championship are rounds 3 and 4, which come from the classic Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit. It's one on every driver's bucket list, so we hope that you can join us then.